Hey everyone, this podcast is part of Story Mode, the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. You can support us and gain access to other great exclusive podcasts at patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds. Just staring out the window. I was looking at a bird. Literally cool. Watching the birds.
The birds are cool. We love birds.
We do.
Hi, everybody.
We like birds a lot. Hi, everyone.
My name is David Bell.
My name is Tom Ryman.
And we just watched Venom.
Let there be carnage. Let it happen, you fucks.
One is the loneliest number that you'll ever do.
I've been thinking about you, Eddie.
Two can be as bad as one. It's the loneliest number.
Because you and I are the same. Every decision we ever make. Who do we leave behind? And how do we leave them? Waiting in the darkness for the rescuer who never comes. Welcome back, Eddie Brock.
Listen, we probably could have done James Bond.
We could have.
Or like VHS 94.
We didn't.
But I had already seen this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm going to enjoy VHS 94 in my own time.
Yeah.
And maybe we will talk about it.
Maybe.
I think this is the least exciting thing we picked, but it's also like I had already seen it. I saw this last week, and then you weren't able to see it, and I was like, well, we're still doing Venom, god damn it.
Yeah.
I can't. I had a terrible afternoon seeing it, not because of the movie necessarily, but just it was like I didn't want to go out. It was just a big hassle. The theater was crowded, etc.
Mm-hmm.
You know, movies.
The movies are back, baby.
The movies are back. I would have appreciated this on streaming, though. Tom, how'd you like Venom, Let There Be Carnage?
Oh, I thought it was delightful.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I thought it was fine.
Yeah, I mean...
I have a weird critique.
Sure.
I thought it should have been longer.
Get the fuck out of here.
Well,
leave this podcast, Dave.
Yeah.
I think the fact that it's so short is one of its biggest strengths, honestly.
I think most people would agree with you. My thing is, I don't know anything about the comics. I don't know anything about Carnage. But in my head, Carnage was almost like a Thanos. It's like, oh shit, it's Carnage. Like, that's a big deal.
Yeah, no.
And this movie didn't treat it like a big deal.
He's not.
Yeah, I mean, he's not in this movie.
He's exactly what he is in this movie.
Yeah?
I mean, that's like...
Is this true to the comics?
Relatively, yeah. I mean, I've never been a huge Carnage fan. Like, I don't really give a fuck about that character. It was basically... Venom debuted, I think, in '88, and was almost immediately like one of Marvel's most popular characters.
Right.
So they had him as a villain, like just a straightforward bad guy, for 3 or 4 years, until like '91, early '90s,
Right.
And then they introduce this Carnage storyline with Carnage as a character, essentially to shove Venom in an anti-hero direction because he was such a popular character. I assume this is why they did it.
Sure.
As a person reading the comics as they came out around that time, this is what my reading of it was. Is that this character was created to give Venom a bigger arch nemesis than Spider-Man, so that he could then be an anti-hero and he could have his own comic books and stuff because people liked him. So they're like, well, we can make money off this character. Let's make a bad guy for him. So Carnage is just kind of like, his origin story never makes much sense. Like it's more or less the same as it is in this movie, where it's like in the comics he and Eddie Brock share a cell together, and the symbiote comes and busts Eddie out, but leaves like a little goop egg of itself behind for some reason, and then that just bonds with Cletus Cassidy, and they become Carnage.
In this version he bites him. I was like, man, that feels. I don't know. That's crazy that you can just bite Eddie Brock and then you get some of that Carnage.
Yeah, but
It's fine.
Yeah,
who
that's
gives a shit?
that's. I was gonna say that. Like the underlying theme is who gives a shit. Like we just want to see. We want to see Tom Hardy argue with himself because that's what was fun about the first movie, right? Like it was how weird and bonkers Tom Hardy's take on the character was.
I didn't find that as charming as the first one. I think it's because the first one, he's like doing the eating the lobster stuff. He doesn't know what's happening to them. And this one, it felt like less. Everybody was like in on it. There was nobody. Like there's like all the characters that matter just know.
Yeah.
I think Venom's coming out party was delight when he goes to the nightclub.
Yeah, he goes to a fucking nightclub.
Yeah, that's a delightful scene. I was surprised that like Carnage was barely a character.
Yeah.
Like it was very weird. I didn't quite know what Carnage wanted. And I do think that's important. Like Carnage just wanted to beat up Venom, but I never got a sense of like why. And like the villain in general,
I suppose.
I guess, but like again, why? It never. I don't know. It never really came across. The villains, it was very weird what they wanted. Like it ended with them like, and we're gonna get married, and we're gonna like kidnap people. And I was like, this is weird.
Yeah, it's the only thing they wanted. Like I don't know. I think I've seen that complaint that criticism come up a few places, and I personally, and it doesn't have anything to do with being familiar with the comics because the storyline is not really it's like a version of stuff that's happened in the comics, but it's not a direct adaptation or anything. I didn't think it was that unclear. It was just like it's Carnage wants out to bust his girlfriend out of Metahuman prison, and then they're going to go get married because that's what they've always wanted.
No, it wasn't that it's not clear. It's that I was just like, really? That's it?
Yeah, it's very simple. I think
you're just going to get married, and like, I don't. It just felt very underwhelming. And then the only thing that was unclear was his girlfriend, Shriek. Sure, Shriek. That makes more sense. Her turn felt weird because she has a moment where she suddenly is like, no, this is wrong. And I didn't quite understand that because they make her a sociopath. And then at the very end, she has like a quick turn and then not quite where she screeches at Carnage.
Yeah, because the symbiote is trying to choke her to death.
Yeah, it just felt very messy that they were like, we want her to have this turn. And it just like it felt like her turn came before Carnage really going after her. I'm still trying to remember it. I just remember
they set it up earlier when she does the shriek to bring down a helicopter and
yeah, and he's like, don't do that.
Yeah, Carnage says to Cletus, he's like, if she does that again, I'm gonna rip her head off.
But the way she's like, Cletus, no more of this, it seems like she's like that we've gone too far or something like that. She's not just like, I don't like the symbiote. It would make more sense if she was just like, I don't like this symbiote. He doesn't like me. We're not getting along. They don't make that clear enough, and so it just feels kind of muddled. Again, it just feels rushed. Like I think they just needed, weirdly enough, a little more time. I would have enjoyed more Carnage stuff. Yeah. That said, I also don't think I don't think this was shot in a particularly interesting way. It's Andy Serkis directing. Like when Carnage, he breaks out of the prison, that whole sequence, they just kind of like, yep, there's Carnage. We're going to film him like we film anything else, doing this stuff. And there was just nothing around it that made Carnage seem like they could have shot that more like a horror movie, you know? They could have had a lot of fun with this character, and it felt very paint by numbers. Which isn't to say I didn't like this movie. I just, again, I was relatively underwhelmed. I was just surprised at how like kind of basic it was.
I was
in every way.
I was going to say I think people are getting thrown off by how simple the villains' goals are. They're extremely simple. There's not any depth to these characters.
Yeah, and I felt like Carnage was. It sounds like Carnage is overhyped in your opinion, right?
Oh yeah, he's a nothing character.
Yeah. But maybe they should have fixed that, like, because he is a hyped character.
Yeah, I don't know how you do it. Like the hype behind Carnage is that he looks cool. Yeah. And so like I think they captured that. Like they did a good job, I think, of his symbiote has like this real fleshy consistency to it. Like he looks gross. He looks like gory and sinewy, and that's cool. That's a cool idea. It's a cool interpretation.
Oh, for sure.
So I think they accomplished that part of it, and Woody Harrelson does his best to make Cletus interesting. Like he doesn't play it in a way that you would that you might expect. Like he doesn't go super over the top. He's like really
he is doing his best. I don't think they gave him enough
there's not much there, but he does his best. Like he kind of goes more understated, which is an interesting thing to do. He kind of makes Cletus almost pathetic and almost sympathetic to a degree. Which is an interesting. I mean, he does his best to make the character interesting because, in my opinion, Carnage is a bullshit character. I don't give a fuck about him. He just looks cool. That's the only reason people like it.
Yeah, but like they could have. It just feels like they could have done more in even the filmmaking and action. It's just like characters falling and just these CGI slow-mo shots.
I don't mind that so much. My only gripe with the way the film looks is that it's so dark. And part of what is so visually interesting about Carnage is that he's this bright, vibrant red. Like he pops. Like that character's design grabs your attention. And they kind of hide it for a lot of the movie. Like he's mostly in the dark in this movie.
Yeah.
So you don't really get to see him too well except for a couple of scenes, which is, that seems strange.
It just feels very paint by numbers where they're like, he's the villain. Let's light him.
Yeah, but again,
they do all the same bits where like Venom goes through, what's her name?
And Michelle Williams. And she likes like the stuff with the boyfriend or the fiance. The fiance,
like there's no like new beats.
I don't know. I think I liked all the Venom stuff, and that's why I wanted to see the movie. Like,
the Venom stuff is still good.
What I wanted to see was Tom Hardy doing his Venom thing, and he totally does that. And I like that they lean more in the comedic direction because who cares about the action in the first movie? Like it's not why I watched it, or that's not why I watch it. It's not what I liked about it. I liked the fucking weird performance that he gives as Venom, and I like that they took like a breakup angle, and I like that they had the characters of Anne and her fiance Dan are kind of like they're almost like parents. They're like parents with their teenage son going through a rocky relationship, where they're just kind of like they're like, Anne's all but rolling her eyes when she has to go get Venom, who's off pouting because he and Eddie had a fight.
Right.
Like I loved all of that stuff. It's so fucking weird that this is their $1 billion superhero movie, and I love it for it. It's such But I just wanted to get across that what I like about this franchise is that it is schlock. It's schlock pudding. It's so perfectly 90s, and that's Venom and Carnage are just 90s trash comics.
Right.
And it's so different from the MCU. In tone, anyway. Not necessarily in structure. They're still structured like superhero movies, but the tone of it is so weird, and it's not trying to fit into that MCU box, and I really appreciate that about it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And like both of these films, I'm just lukewarm on. That doesn't mean like I'll certainly pop them in and watch them sometime. They're fun background
very watchable,
movies.
Yeah.
But it's weird that it's almost like frustrating that it's like it's still. It really does feel like they still did the same beats, where it's like, what can we do to Venom? Oh, well, he has to be separated by Brock. How do we get him back? Oh, we'll have Michelle Williams bring him back. They do that in the first one, too.
But they're forcibly separated. In this one, they have a split that's based on their personalities.
That's not... Yeah, but it's still the same beats.
It's the same beat. It's the same beat, but it's a development of the characters.
Yeah, the characters definitely develop, but they don't develop... Like, they still have the stuff where Venom is like, we're going to get her back. We still have the same dynamics. I would have loved them to just be a little more creative about it, because you're right. The dynamic between him and Venom is fun. It's a weird character. It just doesn't feel like they're going weird enough or making enough big offers with the plot. Like at the end of the day, it's just it's a superhero movie.
Yeah.
Like it's they copy a lot of the same beats as the first one. They don't seem to be interested in doing anything particularly creative with this movie that features characters that are very entertaining and very bonkers. I think I actually liked the first one more, and I think it's because the villain was more compelling in the first one.
Yeah.
And you had to get to know the symbiotes, and we spent time with that, and it was all a little fresh. I felt like it doesn't challenge you in any way. They have a brief moment where Carnage is like, where Venom is like, oh shit, it's a red one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to fight it. I don't get to learn why that matters.
But do you care?
Kind of, actually.
You do.
Because
that's interesting.
They might well, because ultimately he says, it's a red one, I'm not fighting it. And then he says, I'll let you eat anybody. And he's like, okay, let's fight it. And it was like, well, just take that scene out then.
I don't know, because that's
stuff like that where it's like, well, so that didn't matter.
It's just a funny gag to do.
Yeah,
and it's a way of quickly explaining how this new thing bonded with Cletus, who's only had a symbiote for like 2 days. He's not as seasoned at it as Eddie and Venom are.
Right.
It's just a way of explaining how Carnage is able to be a match for him.
Yeah.
And I mean, they do. I don't know. I personally didn't need anything more from that.
The first movie is, what if an evil guy also gets the symbiote, right? And then the symbiotes fight. What are the symbiotes? What kills symbiotes? Fire and sound. All right, we'll use that against them. That's what this movie is too. It's just, what if a bad guy? The promise of Carnage made me think, so shit's gonna step up. And ultimately, it was the same thing, but a church, where it's like, now it's a bad guy in the symbiote, and they're gonna fight. And then what is it? Oh, yeah, fire and sound, and then they win. And so, like, how sustainable is that if they can't create villains? And I don't think it is, because I think what they're going to do next, as they show at the end, is put Venom in the Spider-Verse, which I can't wait to see Venom in the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, that's going to be bonkers.
Yeah. But in terms of, like, how do you give Venom a villain? For both of these movies, it's been the exact same thing. And is there more? Like, are there villains that they can choose from that aren't just a symbiote?
Yeah. You get him with the Sinister Six. You have him interacting with the other Spider-Man characters. There's a lot of directions you can go. They hint at fucking Tommy from Snatch has a symbiote now. He is.
Is that what that happened with his eyes? Yeah.
He is a character called Toxin. But
that's the thing. Is it just going to be another person in a symbiote?
That
and then
character
they beat it with fire and sound.
That
and
character is
dead.
But it remains to be seen what the next installment of Venom will be.
Yeah, I think it really can't be that again.
Sure. No, that's fair, and I get that. I think my issue of not having a problem with Carnage and Shriek being very, very simplistic and limited is that I don't give a hoot about either of those characters. I just want to see Venom. So that's, right. But I do agree that they could have done more. Like the Carnage is a kill crazy maniac with a symbiote. So they could have done, there's a storyline, it's bad. Like I said at the top, Venom and Carnage are 90s trash comics. They're like the trashiest comics of the 90s. But they did a storyline called Maxim Carnage where Carnage was just going on a kill spree throughout all of New York City, and it was like a war zone in New York City. It's like holding the city hostage just with pure chaos. That could have been an interesting movie.
Yeah.
And that's the storyline where Shriek is introduced. So they could have done that storyline. But maybe there was budgetary concerns. Maybe they were worried. Well, the first one was a big hit, but that maybe it was a fluke. We don't know.
Right.
So they hedged their bets by doing a safe thing with a short run time so they could get a lot of showings. I do think that's the problem. I think that's the one thing they should
take from Marvel, which is that no one gave a shit about Iron Man until they did, you know? I didn't know who Thanos was until I did. You can rope in other things, and like what I'm hearing is that you enjoyed this as being, yeah, this is it gave you what you wanted, but it sounds like it gave you the bare minimum. That's what I felt like. It felt like it was just, it wasn't trying very hard to do anything. Like even the Spider-Verse stuff, they just do a cutscene at the end or end credits scene.
Yeah.
Where they're just like, yeah, and here's that thing. And it doesn't make much sense. Venom's just like, by the way, I know about other universes. That's something you could have planted throughout the movie if you gave a shit. You know what I mean? Like they could have tied that into the plot in a way that was interesting. It just really felt like they did as little as they needed to, which is weird because as you're pointing out, the first one did really well. So they could have been like, let's make it weirder. Let's go even more weird.
I think they did make it pretty weird, but they could have gone more bonkers. Sure.
Yeah, let's make it R-rated.
I don't know about, maybe, I kind of like that it's not R-rated. Because like
it doesn't need to be R-rated for
Venom
sure.
has Venom, specifically with the introduction of Carnage, it has this real edgelord vibe to it. Like I said, 90s trash comics. Like a bunch of fucking edgelords love Carnage.
Right.
So it seems perfect for it to be PG-13. It's like I'm 16 and this is deep.
Yeah, yeah. That makes sense. I get that where they're like, yeah, we want, but like,
and also like part of the reason Venom made $1 billion is because it was PG-13.
Oh, for sure. And like we said, I think when we talked about that one, or you at least said, it doesn't need to be R.
No,
and it
he
didn't
was
feel
never
like this needed to be R either.
Yeah, he's never been an R-rated character.
Yeah, I can see the obvious R-rated version.
Yeah.
I don't know what that would add because ultimately for me, it's like it still feels stagnant. It's all the characters feel stuck in the same place. They move very little forward, and like I wouldn't care if it was shot this way or if it was R or PG-13 or PG for that matter. If I felt like it was heading somewhere or the characters were growing or like it was doing something interesting, for me it's like I'm not a fan of Venom, or rather I don't have any nostalgia for Venom. So it's not satisfying anything to see Venom. It's a very CGI heavy character. It didn't feel like they did anything interesting with him as a character, what he can do. It just shoots tentacles and like grabs people and bites them. And so it feels very like generic CGI almost in a way. And so did the ending where it's like, it's just CGI monsters fighting. They're like gooey. And so like ultimately it just, there's very little that it offers. Because it is a throwback to like the 2000s almost in the way it's shot, which I think is not a good thing. It's kind of makes it charming and fun the way I'll watch Daredevil or Ghost Rider too. But
I think
like
the appeal of Venom is, and it's certainly this movie for me anyway. It wasn't just I'm going to go say I'm not like sitting there just delighted because Venom is on screen. It's specifically Tom Hardy's performance.
Oh yeah, Tom Hardy's great.
Like it can he's a CGI monster, but he is still being performed by Tom Hardy in a way that is very interesting to me.
Yeah, the audience was loving it. It feels like it's for people who are fans of this. They're having a great time with it, and I'm not. Like I said, it's not a bad movie. I enjoyed a lot of it. I just felt very underwhelmed, and it just feels like
I agree.
There's so much more they could. It feels like there's more they could do with it.
It was
just not.
Surprisingly small scale. Like it felt on a smaller scale than the first movie.
I think the word is it felt safe.
Mm-hmm. It's a very
movie.
safe sequel. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's weird because they have the ability to not do that. It's like when you play poker and you're just making all these very safe moves and you're ahead and like you could make bigger bets or you could do bigger things because they are ahead with this, and it's like, why not see what you can do with it? Why not get a little more adventurous or creative, but they kind of just did the same formula as like, you know, they do the bad guy kidnaps them, you know, the into the third act. They do all the things that every other movie has done, structurally at least, and that's weird to me because they it's not that they're just doing things other movies have done. They're doing things other movies have done decades ago, where it's like, oh yeah, in third act, Mary Jane's captured, and now he has to go to his lair. Oh, it's a church, like we've seen in a million other movies, or superhero movies like Daredevil and Spider-Man. Although it sounds like Venom in churches is like a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And comic books in churches is a thing. Am I getting that right? Feels like there's a lot of church scenes in comic books.
There are, because they look cool, and it's a very interesting artistic thing you can use, and you know, there's a lot of themes associated with it. So a lot of like iconic superhero moments happen in or around or on top of churches. It's just it's just a thing that looks cool, and it
they love that shit.
Yeah. And because superhero stories are usually pretty straightforward, good guys versus bad guys, like the church, I don't know. It's a theme that gets used a whole lot, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so it just, it's very safe movie, I thought. And that's not bad, but for me, when it was like, I have to go out to see it, it was just like, like streaming. I would have really appreciated this on streaming, I think. You know, some people could see it in theaters. I would see it on streaming, and I'd be perfectly happy to. Mm-hmm. Because, like, I saw it on IMAX, and I was like, I don't need to see this on IMAX. Like you said, it's dark.
It's like, really dark. It's, like, disappointingly dark. Yeah, I wish movies would stop doing that. Like, movies in general need to stop being so fucking dark. Mm-hmm. It's like, especially, with this character whose defining characteristic is that he visually pops. So it's like, let's conceal him in shadow for 80% of the film. It's like, I don't know if I'd have done that. Yeah.
I think... Yeah, I'm excited for Venom to be in the Spider-Man universe, mainly because I'm excited for Venom to be handed to... who's doing that Spider-Man?
The same guy.
What, who did the other Spider-Mans? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm excited for Venom to be handed to someone else. Like, I want to see risks taken with Venom. I don't know. Andy Serkis did a fine job, but I suspect it's like, you know what I'm saying with like when Venom Carnage breaks out, like that's a scene that should be way more interesting.
Like picture it like shot by Sam Raimi, like Doc Ock's scene or something like that.
Or I mean,
there's grotesqueness in it.
Yeah,
he shoves his alien tongue down a man's throat. That was very silly, and it was so goddamn stupid that I couldn't help but love it because Carnage is a bullshit character that I've never really liked, born out of trash '90s comics. So the fact that he just does a big whirly tornado like a Power Rangers villain, totally fine with. I'm like, sure, let's do this stupid ass thing. Yeah, we're watching a movie called Venom. Let there be carnage. Let there be carnage.
But like when he sticks his tongue down that guy's throat, it's just like a two shot of them. Like it's that where it's like they're not even like, they're like, how do we film this? And it's like, just light it regular or like dark, and just like film it like a movie. And it's like, okay, but he's doing something horrific, and it's like, it's fine, just shoot it. Just shoot it like two people talking. Mm-hmm. Like it's just very weird how little, like you're saying, it's a trash comic and you don't care. But it's weird that it feels like the filmmakers also feel that way.
I don't know that that's the case. I just think maybe Andy Serkis is not that good of a director, right? He hasn't done too much.
It just, I don't. Who directed the first Venom?
Ruben Fleisch is the Zombieland guy, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Ruben Fleischer, is that his name?
Yeah. I don't think either were directed particularly well.
Not really.
It's just weird because there is a lot to work with here.
Mm-hmm.
With these
and there characters. Are cool visuals in this movie.
Yeah, but they're not nearly as like they still feel very oddly boring. Like I was bored when Venom's fighting Carnage because it was just a superhero fight and it wasn't shot like anything. I don't know. It just didn't give me anything.
I mean, it's the problem with superhero fights. You try to come up with interesting gimmicks, and they do their best. They throw a couple of X factors in there. They get Anne's fiance Dan involved, and that was fun.
Yeah. But there's a church bell, and you're like, gee, I wonder what that's going to do. Like,
well, I mean, yeah. You saw Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
And that is just lifted from the comics.
Yeah. It's just weird. Like, it's weird to me that one of the people who can shoot this stuff really well is Zack Snyder. Like, Zack Snyder can shoot a superhero fight in a way that actually is interesting. His writing and his understanding of the superheroes, that's another story. But, like, that last Man of Steel fight, for example, that's a well-shot fight.
Yeah, it goes on for too long, but yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of problems there. I'm not complimenting him.
No, he's generally can shoot action reasonably well, yeah.
Yeah, and like I think it's weird to get someone like Andy Serkis who, I don't know, I never saw his
Mowgli
Jungle Book, yeah.
Mowgli, yeah.
But like
I didn't see it
would have been nice to get someone with a background in like horror or action. Someone who can like do something creative. With what they're giving them. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was perfectly fine. Perfectly fine film. It's just weird to me that what they are working with is resulting in a perfectly fine film.
Yeah, I see that. I see what you're saying. It's with such odd characters that are visually unique. This movie plays it weirdly safe with its visuals and its staging. I totally see that. Yeah.
Yeah. It is fun. Yeah, it's as fun, the same fun as the first one. There's some delightful shit.
Yeah.
Tom Hardy, Woody Harrelson. I mean,
yeah, they're great.
Michelle Williams, she doesn't have too much to do, but she's always great too.
Yeah, and I do like the evolution of her character where she's kind of putting up with Venom almost.
Yeah,
they seem like parents, her and Dan.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh man, I like that it evolved to like where the end like Eddie fucks off. He's like, all right, well, I think that she's gonna go marry Dan. That relationship is done. Like they're not going to be romantically involved. Like I don't think it's going to go in that direction. Like I appreciated that they developed that relationship and effectively closed the book on it. Like Anne and Dan could probably not be in any more sequels.
I think Michelle Williams is like, look,
yeah.
This has been fun. I got my money.
Yeah.
I'm all set. Because they don't give her enough to do.
No, not really. No.
That character.
I mean, they get to be involved. And like I said, it was fun to get Dan involved in the fight this time. Because in the first one, Anne's involved by like, she comes into and plays the big sound to fuck up Riz Ahmed.
Right.
So I liked all that stuff. Like I fucking enjoy this movie. It's so delightful. Just all the Venom stuff and his relationship with Anne and Dan is just funny to me.
Oh, that's a lot of fun. Yeah. And then, I loved when Venom goes out. I love that Venom is killing people in this.
He is.
People, because he's jumping body to body when he leaves Brock, and he's just using them up until they get.
Yeah, he's depleting them. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he moves to the next.
He's an alien vampire, basically.
Yeah. It's a very hard line to walk because Venom is also like excited to be a superhero at the end, and it's like that's weird. Like you don't care about humans. You kill them all the time. And like it feels like Venom didn't learn the thing where it's like only bad people. Like it's weird that Venom wasn't choosing bad people to possess. He just didn't care.
I think that's more true to the character.
Not caring.
Right.
Yeah, I think so too. But it does the thing that I think this is also, I feel like an antiquated movie thing where they almost reset a lot of things. Like they have to reset his relationship with Michelle Williams because she's getting married. And he's upset. They have to reset his relationship with Venom. For there to be conflict between them. And so once again, Venom is just like at the end of the first one, he was like only bad people. and Venom seem to reach an understanding.
Yeah, right, but this is seeing that a year later, where Venom is like, I can't do this only bad people shit. Like, I've got to eat brains. Right. I've got to get out there and fuck shit up. You're keeping me cooped up. I don't like the way this arrangement is working out.
No, the logic makes sense. I'm just saying that it's once again they still reset it. I don't know. It felt like there was a little 2 steps back in the characters.
Maybe a little bit. Like, their relationship in the first one was more of a hostage thing. Like, Venom was possessing Eddie, and he's like, all right, I'll help you do this thing, but, like, I'll help you get to the top of this building, but we're still going to go get on this rocket because that's what I want to do.
Right. But here's a version, because at the end, they still reach an understanding where he's like, only eat bad people. What if the version is we actually start with Eddie helping people as Venom in this one, and it's like the media is making him out to be a monster or something, and you have Venom be like, I don't want to be a monster. I want people to actually... And so there's a conflict where Eddie's just like, I can't expose you to the world because the Area 51 stuff, versus Venom wanting to, like, exist in the world.
Yeah.
Which they sort of do, but it's wrapped around, I want to eat whoever I want.
That's
opposed to, like...
That's part of it, yeah.
Yeah.
But the main thrust of his argument is that he's tired of Eddie hiding him. He's like, no, we could be the most famous hero in the... Like, look at what we can do. Like, we could, he resents being held inside, basically.
Yeah, but they frame it as also like he's starving.
Yeah.
And the eating. I don't know. This is also pulled directly from one of the Ninja Turtles movies. I think TMMT, where Michelangelo is, or no,
Raphael.
No. Sorry, I'm thinking of the Michael Bay, the second one, where Michelangelo is like, I'm sick of this, and he goes out to a parade.
Oh yeah,
and it's the same deal where everybody's like, "Great costume, man!" Like, it's the same scene where he just out of the shadows. He wants to come out of the shadows.
Yeah, well, they do the same thing in the TMNT movie too, where Raphael is out fighting crime as a different vigilante. Yeah, because their other turtles are laying low and they have regular jobs.
Yeah. And so that felt like a more clear one. Like, I would have liked a version where it's like Venom, he saves someone as Venom, and then the person is disgusted with him. And
that happens.
Sad. Does it?
Yeah, he saves the lady who's getting her purse snatched, and he's going to fucking rip the guy's head off, and she's just terrified of him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's a fine movie. Woody's good.
Woody's good. His fucking outfit, man. I don't know when it's going to go up, but I wrote a whole piece for Collider just about Cletus Cassidy's outfit. His fucking bright red hibiscus Hawaiian shirt and his haircut and his chains. He looks fucking amazing.
He is the most wanted man in the city, and he goes and gets a haircut.
Yes! That's like the crux of the piece that I wrote is when we see Cletus taking the clothes, his outfit off of some guy in an alley that he's killed. First of all, he's put his prison outfit onto the dead guy for some reason. Like, that's going to throw the cops off his trail or something. And two, he already has the new haircuts.
Yeah.
So either
the symbiote give him the haircut?
Either he went to the barber in his San Quentin jumper, or he had Carnage fashion a pair of scissors and cut his hair for him.
Yeah, I guess.
Or he ripped off clippers from a convenience store.
Right.
I do love that scene where he walks into the convenience store and the guy's like, "Can I help you?" And Woody just jumps up on the counter and kicks him in the face.
Oh, yeah.
And then stomps a mud hole in him.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's natural born killers, Woody Harrelson.
Yeah. That's the thing is, like, Carnage, so they set him up of, like, he's like Hannibal fucking Lecter.
Carnage in the comics is very, very close to Woody's character in Natural Born Killers. So the casting made a lot of sense, but he doesn't play it that way.
Well, it's just, it's more like, so they set him up like that. And they do this whole thing where they create Screech and they
Shriek,
Shriek, and they I like my version where it's Screech from
Saved by the Bell.
Yeah, where they do all this stuff and they do all this work to give him like a motivation that I don't know if we even needed, because I think it would have been... It's one of the few times where I was just like, just make him the Joker. Just make him an agent of chaos.
So when do you care then? Because it seems like you wanted an explanation for why red ones are stronger, but you don't want an explanation for why Cletus is the way he is.
Well, here's what it is those are two very different things. The red one... Yeah, the red one is an alien, and I'm curious of why Venom is like, oh god, it's a red one. Mm-hmm. I thought that meant something. Like, they showed in the trailer, and I was like, oh. Like, but then I thought... I had assumed going into this of like, okay, so I guess Carnage is like a super alien, like that's a different race from Venom.
No.
And came down separately, but it turns out he's just his blood,
he's just Venom's
and it
kid.
Creates a red one, and it seemed like a big deal. With Cletus, what I was getting at is that they start him as like this Hannibal Lecter, like he's speaking in riddles, he's out of his mind, etc., etc. And it felt like they couldn't decide what kind of a maniac, a stereotypical maniac he was, because then I figured like, oh, when he turns into Carnage, it's going to be what you described before. It's going to be a killing spree. No motivation. It's going to be that idea of like that scary idea that it's like, what if a symbiote went on someone who is just a maniac? But then they give him this whole plot where he has to break this woman out, and then he's like, let's go burn down our childhood place and let's get married. And that's all he does.
Yeah.
And it felt very like, and he's driving a car around, and like they're fighting with like the weird symbiote car stuff. And it was just like, what are we doing here? Like, shouldn't he just be chaos? Isn't that what the sphere is? Like, that you set up, that he is this absolute out of control serial killer, and now he's Carnage, so he's just gonna go kill again. But he doesn't want that. And then at the end he says to Eddie, like, all I wanted was for you to be my friend. And I was like, fucking what do you want? Like, and then on top of that, the fact that Carnage is barely a character. We spend very little time with him. His motivation seems to be at the end where he's just like, I'm going to kill you, Dad, to Venom. And I was like, but why? What are you?
He says briefly, if we kill Venom, then there's nothing else on this planet that can stop us, basically.
Yeah.
So,
it's like, all right, I guess. Like, yeah, that's
it's as much sense as I need from an alien murderer.
Yeah, it's just weird, because it's that weird... Like, I would have preferred the idea of Carnage having actually an act, like a more realized motive, and then Cletus being a maniac.
It seems
that's
like
what they seem to set him up as.
Right, and they reverse it. Like, Cletus has a specific want. He wants to bust Shriek out. He wants to reclaim their childhood by burning down the home that they grew up in that was so terrible for them both. And then he wants them to get married. Like, he has very specific wants, whereas Carnage, the alien, is just like, I just want to fucking destroy things. But since we're bonded, I'll let you do your bullshit so I can do my bullshit. And we saw that in Venom, in the first Venom, so we kind of... excuse me. So we, we understand that relationship, but
right.
I see what you're saying, where they set up Cletus to be what Carnage is, and instead they kind of reverse their roles.
Yeah, and I kind of liked the idea of, like, what does it want? It doesn't want anything. It just wants to murder people.
Yeah.
But instead it's like this love story between him and Shriek.
Yeah.
And then she's barely a character, like, she's just evil. And then until she's not, and then she's still sort of
she's
evil.
Still pretty evil. I think she just objects
and she's
to
just like
Carnage,
the cop.
the alien.
Yeah, she's just mad at the cop who shot her, and it's like, sure, I guess.
That would be too. Shot me in the eye.
Yeah. No, it's, it just feels like, I don't know.
It's very safe. Yeah, like you said.
Yeah, and then they're having a wedding, and it was like, what the fuck? And that poor priest is sitting there like, God,
yeah,
I don't want to get eaten. And then he does.
Carnage grabs him and says, "Power up!" and bites his head off. And
that was pretty great.
Hooted with glee.
Yeah, if you eat a priest, you do get a lot of power.
gain powers. Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's god power.
You can jump higher. I think you get a you get a double jump if you eat a priest. Yeah, no, I think this movie was. I agree that it was kind of surprisingly contained. And I think all of these decisions were made to service a more contained narrative so the budget wouldn't balloon out of control. That's my assumption. Of course, I'm just a dude blindly making assumptions. Because there is, like I pointed out, there is an obvious storyline, Maximum Carnage, which is one of the bigger storylines they have ever done with this character, which seems like the thing to do with this character. Like you're saying, it's a character who doesn't want anything. He just wants to kill everything. But they didn't do that. And
they didn't.
And that's a little disappointing. I can agree with that.
Yeah, I just think there's a better movie out there.
Sure.
And so, like, this is fun, but yeah, weirdly safe.
Yeah, they could have done more with Carnage.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, then he just eats him.
Yep,
he just eats him like a little Jolly Rancher.
Yep, like eats up the symbiote, then he bites Woody's head off.
Yeah, he sure does.
I don't know. They could still bring him back. They could give some bullshit of like, oh, there was a symbiote left in his body and it regenerated his head or some fucking shit. You know how comic books are.
It sounds like, though, they're more like they're teasing another symbiote. And to me, that's like, oh, man, just give him to Marvel. Like, I know everything you said is true about how they're not doing the Marvel thing, but I just don't see how a third one is. It's just the same thing.
They're doing the Morbius thing. They've got Kraven the Hunter in the works. Sony is trying to make their Sinister Six movies, so they're going to move him into that and combine with the other Spider-Man characters, and hopefully that'll be fun.
Yeah, I think so. I think him in the Spider-Verse would be fun.
Him with Spider-Man is going to be funny.
Yeah, I wish he was in something that Sam Raimi was directing.
Oh,
although.
Man.
We did give Sam Raimi Carnage or Venom once, and it didn't work out. So
he does not. He has gone on record as very disliking Venom and being forced to include him. And
which is funny because it's like if anybody could do something with Venom, it feels like Sam Raimi could.
Right? If Sam Raimi would have gone off the rails with Carnage, are you kidding?
Yeah. Giving it to fucking Smeagol.
I don't know. He did fine.
He's fine. He's I have no opinion on Andy Serkis.
As a director, no.
Yeah, or as a human or as an actor.
Oh, as an actor, fine. I think he's pretty good. Yeah, he's.
I really like him when he doesn't have a bunch of shit all over him.
Yeah.
No, even when he does.
Yeah, he's a dynamic performer for sure.
Yeah.
His direction is fine. It's fine. It gets the job done. I mean,
he got the job done.
Yeah.
He definitely did. He made the movie. He made a movie.
He did. He made a motion picture that is doing quite well. So congrats to Andy Serkis.
Congratulations, Mr. Serkis. Loved you in Tintin.
He is pretty great in Tintin.
He's great in Tintin. He's good. He's a good actor.
Yeah.
I do think I like him when he doesn't have shit all over him. He can do more of that. But he's doing what he's doing. I think the only thing I was just like, come on, was Snoke. That was the only thing where I was
that was ridiculous. Yeah. Just have him be Andy Serkis. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, you just put a bunch of fucking makeup on him. It's fine.
Just make Andy Serkis a Star Wars character. Like, why is that hard?
Why is that hard?
I don't know. We don't need to talk about that. Any final thoughts about allowing Carnage? The permissing Carnage? Letting there be Carnage?
I think the moral of this is that if you really liked the first one, you'll really like this one.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, I'm personally like, if they do a third one and it's just another symbiote, I'm probably just gonna wait for streaming. It feels like it's a lot like older superhero films. And one of the problems with older superhero films is sequels.
Yeah.
And because it's like, well, if we just keep doing the same thing over and over again, you run out. So you have to escalate it. And that's what at least Marvel had figured out, which is like you escalate. You escalate until you're in space and you're fighting fucking some blob or something. And you're like, how did we get to this?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think they should take an actual risk for the next one.
Yeah, well, they'll move him into the Spider-Verse maybe. And I know he shows up in Morbius.
Yeah, that's neat.
So that'll be interesting. I hope the rest of Sony's Spider-Man universe continues to be as odd as this one is.
It is so fucking weird. Morbius is one where I have no hype for Morbius. I forget it exists. I don't know when. It could already have come out, you know?
Nope. It was supposed to come out like 2 years ago.
Yeah. Morbius.
Fucking
Jesus
Morbius.
fucking Christ.
Yeah.
Sony, to me, it's like they're right on the edge between Marvel and Universal's Dark Universe. You know what I mean? Where it's like at any point it could just go tipping.
Oh,
into
they
the
fucked
Dark
it up
Universe
once
abyss.
already. The Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah,
like they tumbled into the abyss already.
Yeah,
like they've been there.
Right, and it comes from the expectation to make franchises. Like, I think the laziest part of this movie was that ending, right? Where they're in a hotel and Venom's like, by the way, I can look into other universes. And here we go. That was that was the laziest tease I've seen in a long time, where they don't work it in naturally in any way. And it's that obligation to tie everything into bigger universes that I think with most things, they never give it much thought. It's always an afterthought, as opposed to Marvel, which they're still improvising, but they largely figure it out, right? Like, I've been watching early Marvel, and I'm just like, oh yeah, they do the work. They set up the stuff. And so I don't know. It's just the one thing that I feel like most of these movies just never are able to crack, because they always say, yeah, we'll just add a post-credit scene. That's it. Like, that's the solution.
I think what happens is the Doctor Strange spell gets cast, right? Like, that's what...
Yeah, whatever that ridiculous cast...
That's what happens in the post-credit sequence.
Is that what's happening? Because
that's what I took it as when I saw the movie.
That doesn't work, though, because it's getting cast. I mean, whatever. We haven't seen Spider-Verse, but it's J. Jonah Jameson, that scene from the last one. That would be the nexus point, wouldn't it? That would be the point in which everything goes wrong.
That's the nexus point, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
so that
the
does make
specific
sense.
moment he wants to undo.
Yeah, that would make sense.
I mean, we'll have to see. I mean, we'll see in like 2 months. Spider-Man comes out in December.
I just want to see fucking Tom Hardy and Spider-Man.
Get him in the goddamn MCU. They won't know what's happening. Oh my god.
Yeah. I don't know how they're going to deal with that, because these movies have set him up as like a hero, and it's like
kind of.
But like, no one wants to see Tom Hardy lose to Spider-Man. I don't think.
No.
Yeah, so I mean, I assume it'll be like a team up, or
they'll start fighting and then they'll team up. That's what happens in the comics.
Okay, yeah, that checks out.
Yeah, like I said, he was a bad guy for like 3 or 4 years, and he's been like an anti-hero pretty much ever since.
Right. All right. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
They can share their goos.
Yeah, they can mix goo.
Yeah, really gooey universe. Like,
the
in
goo
general,
universe.
It's true.
Yeah.
In Spider-Man, the street cleaning is very important in general.
Yeah. Well,
like, you got the Venom goo, you got blood, you got the webs. It's just a gooey ass fucking situation.
I'm gonna be that nerd. The web fluid dissolves after a few hours.
Like in Rain?
It just dissolves on its own.
That's good.
It breaks down.
That's good. It's still a gooey fucking universe.
It still is. Yeah, you still got webs hanging up for like 3-4 hours.
Yeah, it's still
like,
terrifying.
Christ, Spider-Man's been through, like, your yard's just webbed up. You're like, God damn it. I gotta cut the fucking grass.
Venom's scary and all, but can you imagine mugging someone and out of the shadows you get spider-webbed? and you don't see where it came from? Yeah, and that moment of sheer terror. Like, before, like, Spider-Man, we knew about him, where you're is there a giant fucking spider in this alleyway?
Right.
And then the terror doesn't go away when a man steps out. And you're like, what the fuck are you about to do to me?
Yeah. The couple of seconds.
Horrifying.
Yeah, the absolute terror of those few seconds is enough to drive a person completely insane.
Right, and then he just says a pun at you and kicks you in the face. You get out of that like, wow, that's way better than I thought.
That is not where I thought this was going when I got spider-webbed out of the darkness.
Yeah. That's the best way it could have gone.
Yeah, some quippy teen appears.
Yeah. What a fucking horrifying hero. That's all I got.
Yeah. I think we've said enough. We've talked almost for the duration of Venom, Let There Be Carnage.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. Why don't you tell them what we got going on, Dave?
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. If you're interested, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. You can go on there. You can find all sorts of things. There's for $5 a month. You get exclusive podcasts like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Star Trek The Next Futurama. Our next Fox Mulder, which is going to be a free one, is about a certain someone going undercover in a planned community.
Yeah. Posing as a certain someone's husband.
Yeah. That's going to be a fucking mess, isn't it?
It's a real mess. It's a real mess, folks. You should tune in.
Tune in for sure.
Oh man. We also have a store. Head over to gamefullyunemployed.com where you can check out the link to our Teespring store. We have cool original artwork and designs based around our shows and stuff. You can get all that on t-shirts, masks, mugs, posters, stickers, all kinds of stuff. So check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have nothing to lose.
You got nothing to lose. You may get webbed out of the darkness any second now.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know.
You might get gooed.
Yeah,
you don't know.
May get gooed. We're in the Marvel Cinematic Gooniverse.
Oh, give me that.
Yep. I mean, you have it. You have the Gooniverse.
We have it. We have the Gooniverse. Yeah, thank God.